Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Representatives from the Pennsylvania State Police say that a 20-year-old man could be facing numerous charges this week after he allegedly crashed a car into the second story of a house, a collision which authorities say was deliberate. According to reports, the dramatic crash took place at around 3:15 p.m. on August 6th, when the suspect, 20-year-old Evan Miller, was driving in Decatur Township. Police now say that Miller was traveling at between 90 and 100 miles an hour when he deliberately steered into a ditch, launching the Toyota Corolla he was driving into the air and sending it smashing into the second floor of a home on Alpharetta Road. Following the crash, Miller allegedly ran around the scene yelling that he saw demons and also claiming to be one. He was taken into custody when police arrived and placed in an ambulance before being transported to a local hospital. Once there, the 20-year-old reportedly made animal noises and growling sounds at an officer and allegedly kicked a security guard twice. Though thankfully no one else was injured as a result of the crash, both the car, which is said to belong to Miller's grandmother, and the home he smashed into sustained serious damage. Removing the vehicle from the second floor reportedly took about 2 hours, after which emergency crews had to stabilize the building so that it wouldn't collapse. The room that took the brunt of the damage, which appears to have been some kind of home gym, also needed to be tarped to keep out rain from looming storms. At the time of this recording, police say that they do not believe the collision was accidental, though it's unclear exactly where the case stands. Some reports state that authorities are still considering charges against Miller, while others state that he has already been charged with numerous offenses, including aggravated assault, felony criminal mischief with damage to property, recklessly endangering another person, harassment, reckless driving, careless driving, failing to drive at a safe speed, and disregarding a traffic lane. The situation is still developing. New York City law enforcement officials were apparently left equally baffled and embarrassed this week after an inmate managed to escape right under their noses in broad daylight while receiving treatment at a local hospital. According to reports, 44-year-old Taiwanese national Yenchun Chen had been sent to Mount Sinai Beth Israel Hospital on August 4th after experiencing a cardiac issue while imprisoned at Rikers Island following a recent arrest for possession of a controlled substance. Everything appeared to be going smoothly until the afternoon of August 9th, when Chen was escorted by a staff member to an area of the hospital's 5th floor to take a shower. It was here, while left attended, that he allegedly escaped. Authorities now say that after squeezing through a window, Chen was able to use a makeshift rope to rappel down to a lower section of the hospital's roof. He had apparently constructed the rope out of extra towels he requested. Once on this lower section of the roof, he climbed a ladder down to the street, where he hailed a taxi. He hasn't been seen since. While the whole thing was already pretty brazen due to the fact that Chen made his escape during broad daylight, what's left authorities even more up in arms is the fact that he's not exactly hard to miss due to his size. The 44-year-old is apparently 6'3" and 250 pounds. So yeah, not exactly the blend into a crowd type. In an interview with the New York Post, one law enforcement source said, quote, "It's embarrassing. You see the size of that guy?" Making matters worse for police, it appears that they have now scoured multiple addresses associated with Chen, only to come up empty-handed. At the time of this recording, they say they believe he could be in New Jersey, though the search officially continues. Authorities in Harford County, Maryland say that they are investigating the death of a 37-year-old woman as a homicide this week after her body was discovered off of a popular hiking trail last week. According to reports, 37-year-old mother of 5 Rachel Morin was last seen alive at around 6 p.m. on August 5th when she set out for an evening run on the Ma and Pa Trail in the town of Bel Air. Her family began to worry when she hadn't returned after several hours, and police were officially alerted about her disappearance just before midnight, prompting a search. That search came to a tragic end the following day at around 1 p.m. when Rachel's body was discovered in the woods off of a section of the trail. Her vehicle had been found nearby shortly before this, parked near the beginning of the trail. At the time of this recording, few additional details have been released about the case, including Rachel's cause of death. No suspects have been identified, though the 37-year-old's boyfriend, 27-year-old Richard Tobin, who was also the person who reported her missing, was quick to come out and preemptively say that he had nothing to do with the murder. In a Facebook post, he stated, quote, "I love Rachel. I would never do anything to her. Let the family and I grieve. Yes, I have a past, but I also have 15 months clean and I have changed as a person. Please." The past Tobin was referring to appears to be his history of legal trouble, which reportedly includes arrests for second-degree assault, malicious destruction of property, drug possession, and violating restraining orders. According to reports, Tobin and Rachel had only recently started dating at the time of her death, having only announced their romantic relationship publicly about a week prior. Before that, those that knew her say that Rachel was on multiple dating sites and might have been in contact with various other people. Currently, police say they are looking to speak with anyone who might have information about the case. They also announced that a group of 5 witnesses who were believed to have been on the trail at the time of Rachel's disappearance have since come forward and are now assisting with the case. In the meantime, countless people are now mourning Rachel's death. Those that knew her described the 37-year-old as warm, friendly, and an easygoing person, but above all, a devoted mother to her 5 children. Sadly, it appears that in Rachel's absence, her kids will now be split up. At the time of this recording, the investigation into the murder is ongoing. Authorities in Maricopa County, Arizona released an update in the mysterious disappearances of a father and son this week, announcing that after several weeks, one of them had been found injured under disturbing circumstances at a local property. According to reports, 51-year-old Chad Holvig and his son, 25-year-old Dalton Holvig, were both reported missing last month after they vanished in western Maricopa County. Chad was last seen on July 4th when he left to visit Dalton at his home in the town of Goodyear, while Dalton was last seen somewhere around July 10th. An investigation began around the same time, and missing persons bulletins were officially released a couple of weeks after. However, no sign of them was found. That all changed on August 10th when authorities announced an unsettling development in the case. While serving a search warrant at a property in Goodyear, police found Dalton. He was alive, but suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He claimed that he had been held at the property against his will, and even more disturbing, 2 dead bodies were also found in the house at the same time. So far, the chilling discovery has provided more questions than answers. At the time of this recording, it appears that the 2 deceased people have not been identified, though there are unconfirmed reports that both bodies have been ruled out as belonging to Chad Holvig. Their causes of death have also not been released. What we do know is that authorities arrested 2 people at the residence where Dalton was found on unrelated charges. Police have also alluded to a disturbing level of violence transpiring at the property, saying that the case was, quote, very complex and very concerning. The situation is still developing. Authorities in Volusia County, Florida say that a 35-year-old murder suspect recently landed herself with additional charges after she allegedly made a rather bizarre and brazen attempt to destroy evidence during questioning. The whole thing started at around 1:46 a.m. on July 1st, when police were called with reports of a fire at a residence on the 600 block of Clark Street in Daytona Beach. Officers arrived at the scene to find that a pile of clothes had been set on fire in one of the second-floor bedrooms of the shared residence. However, it was when they extinguished the flames that things really started to get serious. During a search of the property, they found the body of an elderly man lying face down in a blood-spattered room. He had suffered blunt force trauma wounds to the head, as well as stabbing injuries to the torso. After speaking with the property owner, the victim was identified as 79-year-old Michael Sarasoli, one of the tenants who lived there. Michael's cell phone was recovered at the scene, along with another cell phone that had a blood-covered knife on top of it. The landlord said the second phone belonged to the other tenant that lived at the residence, 35-year-old Nicole Max. Roughly 2 hours later, Max was spotted by police walking barefoot and wearing a ripped shirt outside of a fast food restaurant in the neighboring community of Holly Hill. She had blood on her leg, and when officers approached her, Max reportedly dropped a knife and a hammer at their feet. When questioned about what she had been doing that morning, the 35-year-old was reportedly evasive and kept changing her story. At first, she said that she had no connection to Michael or the property where his body was found, at one point saying that she had been homeless for the last 4 years. After admitting that she knew the victim, Max stated that she hadn't seen him that day, before changing again and admitting that Michael was her roommate and that she had been at their shared residence earlier, though claimed that she had only gone up to the second floor to, quote, feed her spiders. After obtaining a warrant to collect DNA evidence from the 35-year-old's body, police reportedly continued their questioning, at which point Max asked for a can of Diet Mountain Dew. Officers obliged, only for Max to play around with the drink for some time before finally attempting to pour it over her body and hair, in what authorities say was an attempt to destroy evidence. While the sucralose in artificial sweeteners has apparently been shown in studies to have the potential to break down the biological components that make up DNA, unfortunately for Max, her alleged attempt was unsuccessful. Samples collected from Max's clothing ended up matching DNA found on Michael's body. It likely wouldn't have mattered either way, though, as Max's DNA was also reportedly found on the handle of the knife that was found at the crime scene. Instead, Max's stunt apparently earned her additional charges of tampering with evidence and resisting arrest with violence, on top of the premeditated first-degree murder charge she was already facing in the case. So far, it appears that the motive behind the murder has not been released. Representatives from Florida's Bay County Sheriff's Office say that a Georgia man is facing numerous charges this week following an equally bizarre and destructive burglary at a local church. The incident began sometime after 8 on the morning of August 4th, when Bay County deputies were called to the Emerald Beach Church of God in the town of Panama City Beach. An employee of the church said that she had fled the property after hearing breaking glass, which she realized was the sound of someone breaking in. Officers reportedly arrived at the scene to find the suspect, later identified as Derek Porter, who was allegedly in the middle of a burglary at the property. After smashing his way inside with a cinder block, authorities say that Porter did roughly $8,000 worth of damage to the church, then loaded several items including a television, a computer, and the church's money bag into his truck. Upon being caught red-handed, Porter apparently stated that he could not remember what had happened during several periods of time while he was in the church, something that might be explained by the methamphetamine that was allegedly found inside his pocket at the scene. However, Porter apparently did remember one thing quite vividly. He said that at one point he had baptized himself in the church's baptistry pool and claimed that something had held his head down in the water. It seems that Porter wasn't the only one who enjoyed the pool, though. Upon being let inside, one of the police dogs who had been brought to the scene immediately made a beeline for the water and jumped in, prompting audible laughs in one of the officers' body cam footage. Porter has now been charged with burglary of an occupied structure, criminal mischief, possession of methamphetamine, and possession of drug paraphernalia in connection with the incident. At the time of the crime, he was reportedly already out on bond for another burglary in Georgia. Authorities in Montgomery, Alabama say that multiple people are in custody and facing charges this week after an argument over a reserved boat docking spot turned violent, leading to a now viral incident that many have likened to a WWE-style brawl. According to reports, the incident began on the evening of August 5th when a riverboat called the Harriet II ran into trouble when it returned from a scheduled trip along the city's waterfront. As it prepared to dock, the boat's captain, Jim Cottrell, discovered that a private pontoon boat had been left in the Harriet II's designated spot. After spotting the group that appeared to own the pontoon boat, Cottrell reached out to them over the riverboat's PA system, trying to figure the situation out. However, the group reportedly responded with hostility, refusing to move. For roughly the next 45 minutes, Cottrell and others allegedly tried to work things out with the pontoon boat owners, whose juvenile behavior apparently only escalated. They made obscene gestures and cursed at and taunted Cottrell and the boat's crew. This reportedly prompted a growing response from the riverboat's increasingly frustrated 227 passengers, who at one point began chanting, "Move, bitch, get out the way." Finally, at around 7 p.m., Cottrell decided that they couldn't wait any longer, and co-captain Damian Pickett was dropped on shore by another member of the crew. Pickett then moved the pontoon boat a few paces to one side, with the intention of creating enough room for the Harriet II to dock. That's when all hell broke loose. According to reports, as soon as Pickett moved the pontoon boat, he was confronted by several angry members of the other group, who proceeded to yell at him and get in his face. Pickett attempted to explain what was happening, though before long he had been punched in the face, after which multiple people from the group jumped in and joined the attack. Realizing that Pickett was in danger, others soon came to his defense. This included bystanders, as well as a 16-year-old from the Harriet II's crew who jumped off the boat and swam to shore to join the fight. The brawl escalated significantly from here. Numerous people were punched, kicked, shoved, choked, and thrown or pushed into the water, while one bystander was even seen hitting others with a folding chair. The situation was finally brought under control at around 7:18 p.m. when police arrived at the scene and began making arrests. While at least 13 people were detained at the scene, it appears that most of them have now been released. However, 5 people are now facing charges in connection with the brawl. They have since been identified as 48-year-old Richard Roberts, 23-year-old Alan Todd, 25-year-old Zachary Shipman, 21-year-old Mary Todd, and 42-year-old Reggie Ray. The first 4 suspects are all said to be members of the pontoon boat group who reportedly started the altercation, while Ray is allegedly the man who was seen hitting people with the folding chair. Ray has been charged with disorderly conduct, while the other suspects are each facing varying numbers of third-degree assault charges. Given the fact that all of the members of the pontoon boat group are white, and Pickett and most of those who came to his defense are black, many have since questioned whether the incident was racially motivated. Members of the Montgomery police say that they have found no evidence that this is the case. However, witnesses claim that they heard some members of the pontoon group yelling racial slurs during the brawl. At the time of this recording, it appears that this, as well as other elements of the situation, are still under investigation. Officials in Travis County, Texas say that a 62-year-old man is facing new murder charges this week, decades after he was given early release following his conviction in another chilling case. According to reports, 62-year-old Raul Meza Jr. was indicted by a grand jury this week on charges of capital murder, and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle after he was linked to the killings of 2 people this past May. The first victim, 65-year-old Gloria Lofton, was reportedly discovered dead in her home more than 4 years ago in 2019. The second victim, 80-year-old Jesse Fraga, was found by officers on May 20th of this year after police were called to conduct a welfare check at his residence on the 700 block of Campfire Trail in the city of Pflugerville. He had a belt around his neck and his cervical spine had been severed. Authorities arrested Meza on May 29th, 4 days after he allegedly called Austin police and implicated himself in both killings. However, officials now say that the situation might be worse than anyone had previously imagined. In particular, they believe that Meza might be a serial killer, and has so far allegedly been linked to as many as 10 other murders that are still under investigation. The revelations have sparked outrage, especially from those who argue that considering Meza's criminal past, he should have never been out on the streets in the first place. In 1982, he was convicted after he sexually assaulted and murdered an 8-year-old girl named Kendra Page, whose body he left in a dumpster near an Austin elementary school. Despite the horrific nature of Mays's crime, he was released on good behavior after serving just 11 years of his 30-year sentence. At the time of his early release, Mesa claimed to be a changed man and a born-again Christian. The public wasn't convinced, though, and he was run out of at least 6 different cities by protesters who viewed him as a threat to society. Currently, Mesa remains in custody at the Travis County Jail. The investigation continues. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.